Know what to eat, but find yourself not eating it. Perhaps you've been on diets and off again and just wonder why you can't stick to them. The Eating For You podcast, hosted by me, Sally Ann Pisk, will show you what's been missing so you can enjoy a healthier way of eating that lasts. Hi, Sally Ann with you today, and it's my great pleasure to be talking with Janice. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you, Sally Ann.
Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of Janice's background, but I'm sure we'll find out more about her very interesting life as we talk through this episode. Janice grew up in a rural area on a farm. It was a quiet, happy childhood with a sister and two brothers. Her parents shared the workload of milking Jersey cows and looking after a collection of animals. Janice left home at 17 for work. She is now retired and approaching 80 soon and lives in a small city. Janice, tell us about growing up on a farm. Was it quite isolated, or did you still have access to shops and school?
We had neighbours that we could see from our farm, which was 250 acres.
Yes.
And school was a school bus trip.
Yes.
Shops were a half-hour drive.
Yes. Okay. So it certainly wasn't walking distance to things, was it?
Oh, no, we walked to the bus. We walked a lot of places.
Yes. I often think about my childhood. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I had a half-hour bus trip to school as well. And I think about the kilometres we used to just walk to go and do things. I did have a small township not so far from where I lived, but very different. I often think about how myself and my cousins used to just wander off for the day. They'd sort of appear sometime in the afternoon. It was very different. Tell me about the farm. You had some vegetable crops and also...
Yes, we had a veggie garden. We had about 250 cows, milking cows, dogs, chooks, ducks, orchard. A big orchard and a big veggie garden. We were pretty self-sufficient. Yeah. And sheep, my father slaughtered the sheep for food, caught rabbits and pigs.
Wow, so it was really, as you said, self-sufficient. How did you find that when you left the farm and then went off to work? Because you would have been used to having literally food at your fingertips, and then all of a sudden you're away. Did you go into work where food was provided, or did you have to start cooking for yourself?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me was going to school. I was just put on a bus at 5.
Yes.
That was a big wrench for me as a child. So when I left at 17, it was a whole new experience and exciting. Scary, but exciting. And I lived in a nurse's home and found another family.
Yes, the nurses' quarters, very supportive. I actually stayed in nurses' quarters first, went to work, and allied health staff could stay there as well. And it was a great way to make friends and meet people. And I was fortunate, found someone, shared the cooking with as well. And then we ended up moving on and sharing a place on a farm, mind you, because I had a horse. So my horse came up from Victoria into New South Wales and joined me on that farm.
Well, we didn't have to cook. No. We had a cafeteria.
Yes.
That cooked for us, and we are still friends today. The remaining 5 of 14, most of them have passed on.
Do you ever think whether, moving from the farm and then moving into a career like nursing, what has influenced how you eat and some of your eating habits that have developed since you were a child into a teenager and then starting work?
I don't think so. I was always a chubby child. My first diet was after I left school and became aware of body image. And it was a very uneducated diet of eating apples.
Oh, yes.
Because they were freely available on the trees.
Yeah.
And I did lose easily quite a lot of weight then and kept that off until later in life.
So after eating apples, how long did you do that for? And then how did you start eating sort of a more balanced sort
I
of meals as
probably
well?
ate one meal a day and the
Okay.
rest of the day ate apples.
Yes. How long did that happen for?
Probably a month.
Okay.
And
Yep.
then, of course, when I left home, I was had a busy, actually quite challenging physical life,
Yeah.
long hours, and no time to eat.
Yes, yes, it's interesting, isn't it? It's and the shift work as well,
Mm.
impact on how you eat. So, other than your apple diet, is there anything else that you sort of tried later on when you found that you were putting on some weight?
Yes, later on, I married, lost a husband tragically, lost more weight. It just fell off. Then had two more children and started back at work on night shift. And that's when I started to gain weight.
Yes, yeah.
So I tried Weight Watchers, quite a few different diets with not a great lot of success.
So, when you went back to work and you were working night shift, did you do the other shifts as well, or were you mainly focused?
No, all night shift.
Yes, yeah.
And I didn't sleep, and I had two small children to look after, three actually. So you were eating all hours of the 24 hours.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, there is good research out now showing if we do night shift, the better times to eat, but it still does require us to get some sleep through the day. And we also know that just sleep deprivation alone
Mm.
without working the night shift can increase our stress hormones like cortisol. So you wouldn't be alone, Janice, at all. I think in that battle of night shift, plus then not sleeping that adequately. And yeah, the body literally doesn't know where it is, does it? And probably at
No, well,
times,
I didn't sleep well during the day either. I got my quality probably 2 hours sleep once my second husband came home from work, patchy during the day.
yeah. And I think it's a topic that I would like to much more closely on the Eating for You podcast because many Australians and people around the world are required to work shift work. And night shift does play havoc with our sleep cycles, but also our eating and then all of the stress hormones and the appetite hormones can become disrupted. And I don't know if you listened to the episode earlier on sleep with Rosemary Clancy, where we did talk about shift
I
work,
did.
yeah, being an issue, but there's a whole lot of things that need to be put in place to help shift workers get adequate sleep. And I think more research is warranted, especially for healthcare workers like yourself, and then also emergency workers and people on call as well for different reasons. So lots more to learn there and much more investment, I think, in looking after
Mm.
our workforce that are required to work 24 hours a day.
I think it's exacerbated too by the tiredness you experience
Yeah.
with the lack of sleep, that you tend to eat
Mm.
to, oh, it'll give me some energy.
Yes, yes. And we certainly do know with sleep deprivation that cortisol levels in the body increase, which increase the level of ghrelin, one of the appetite hormones, and that
Mm.
encourages you to eat more. And not only eat more, you want to have those higher fat, higher sugar foods. And then the leptin, which is supposed to be our stop button, that's delayed coming on. And I often reflect on this, and I think in the short term, that's probably a really valuable survival mechanism for those periods of time
Mm.
when, for whatever reason, we couldn't sleep, we wanted more energy, so we ate more and more of that energy dense food. But when it's happening day in, day out for weeks, months, and years, it loses its beneficial effect. So, as I said, I think there can be a lot more discussion in this area to help people with their eating. So, Janice, when you did retire, did you notice any change with your sleep patterns and your eating then?
It took me years to even get what resembled a sleeping pattern,
Yes.
and 4 hours would be my limit.
Yes.
In fact, my respiratory specialist got quite frustrated with me because why didn't I sleep more? And to me, that was natural. That was all I ever got. And amongst my age group, friends, they're very similar.
Yes. And especially if they've had a background of maybe doing the shift work as well alongside you. So, since you've retired, I know you have tried different things for your eating and your health. What sort of things did you try once you had finished working?
Oh, you name the diet companies, I tried them.
Yeah.
I flunked Weight Watchers 2 or 3 times, but I didn't find the understanding with how it was for me and tended to be a little bit judgmental, which increases your feeling of frustration.
Yes. And when you said you didn't sort of pick up on the understanding for you, was that understanding your eating habits, or you felt that the program that you were on wasn't personalized to you? And maybe it was both.
Probably not personalised, but also I just cannot lose large amount of weight.
Mm.
And if I followed it religiously, it still made not a lot of difference.
What was happening for your sleep and your activity levels then as well? Because they're obviously part of the picture as well in terms of our metabolism and our health.
Well, I bushwalked regularly and I'd be bushwalking for 2 or 3 hours. So that kept my dress size down.
Yes.
And then I had trouble with joints and couldn't exercise. So that increased the problem.
Yes, yes. And I think we know a lot more again from that perspective of health as well, and that sort of understanding that we need to maintain muscle mass as well. So I think it's inevitable, especially for women, once we go through menopause, and this is relatively new, this understanding that we actually need to lift weights to maintain not only our muscle but our bone strength as well. So that research is very much welcomed. But of course, if you've got into a position and your health has been such that you've got joint problems or back pain and so forth, it does become a little bit more difficult, unless you've got access to maybe hydrotherapy and very specialized physiotherapy services that can help people. And I remember having many calls with ladies across Australia and overseas as well in my free calls. And it was very sad, especially talking to some of the rural women. They just didn't have access to any support services for like arthritis and things like that. And as much as possible, we keep moving, but we need to have the right environment and support to help us do that.
Well, I'm fortunate there because I've got access to a physio.
Yes,
I'm about to get an exercise bike.
fantastic.
I'd much prefer to be out bushwalking with nature,
Yeah.
but you have to go for substitutes.
Yes, that's right. And I think as many of my clients say to me, and I know you have as well in the past, that when you do achieve something and you make some changes, you actually feel better. And so it's being able to tap into not so much what the number is on the scales anymore or what you used to be able to do, but it's what you can do now and how that makes you feel.
Physicality, yeah.
That's right, because we do change as we age, and some of us develop different health conditions, which make us adapt. And there's a grieving process, I believe, with that as well, because we do enjoy the different activities that we've taken up, and then to find out we can't do them as much or at all anymore, that's quite an adjustment as well. But just getting back to some of the diets, did you find them difficult to stick to, or did you just find that they didn't give you those results?
I found them rigid.
Mm,
You were restricted with, well, we went through point systems and
yes.
portion systems. I prefer the mindful eating. I just felt regimented
Yes, yes.
to
So,
certain, and they were all different. Some were high protein, some were low carbo, low fat.
yeah.
They didn't suit my body either.
No. So tell me how you found mindful eating differently. What sort of surprised you perhaps about that approach?
I think I was in the number one, I was in the right place.
Mm.
I decided dieting hadn't worked. Diets didn't work for me. Then I read one of your articles
Mm.
on the internet, and I think it's non-judgemental, informative, and that gave me the opportunity not to feel regimented and to look at it in a whole different way.
Yes.
That food's essential to survive, and perhaps helping me recognise the triggers for my night snacking.
And I think you've touched on a lot of things there, is that we often don't understand what our triggers or drivers for eating are. And they can vary as well. And I often sort of say to people that by being mindful, we can actually know what's going on in this moment and have a much better chance of choosing something that's going to support us in that moment. Even if we choose to eat and we're not hungry, if we eat that food mindfully and enjoy it, that is far different to just eating on autopilot, perhaps completing a whole box of crisps or a whole bar of chocolate or a whole tub of ice cream before we know that we've actually even eaten it. It's a very different experience to eat mindfully, isn't it?
Totally different, and learning to sit to eat, learning to be not watching TV. I can still hear you now from some of the podcasts about emptying the plate, how we grew up eating because that's how we survived then. You
Yes.
eat it up, you can't waste it. Just learning that I'm full. I just don't want to finish it.
Yes. Yes.
Just those little tips.
Yes, and I think it's a process, isn't it, Janice? I know for yourself there were a few aha moments along
Mm.
the way, and I always remember when you did share, oh, I think I understand what's going on at night with my snacking. That was a great insight. But you're not alone. I think that whole being able to tune in to hunger and satiety is a skill that was overridden throughout our lifetime for
Mm.
various reasons. I certainly grew up and had to eat everything on my plate, and then really learned to overeat because we had to eat our meat and vegetables and then have dessert. So it was like, yeah, I want to have some of that. So by the age of 10, probably I'd learned to overeat. And then you're quite right. When you enter into your teenage years that and early adult years, that body image kicks in. But in many ways, many of us have learned to overeat, but we actually want to lose weight because of
Mm.
that pressure. And body image is not necessarily a harmful driver for eating, but it's something that could become harmful if we really restrict our food and we don't enjoy food and we judge ourselves harshly because of how we look. And I sort of fear in many ways that's something that healthcare practitioners haven't been able to influence much over the 30 plus years that I've been a dietitian. So, with the mindful eating, how do you see it working for you now? Because it's a few months since you finished your coaching program. How does mindful eating impact on perhaps what you eat, when you eat, how you eat?
I find that during the day, it's not a problem, but I had an epiphany last week. I went out there were four of us. We meet up regularly. We're friends,
Yes.
and usually we have lunch. And we ordered our lunch, and our meals came, and I looked, at my meal, and it was a squid salad. It looked delicious
Yeah.
and it tasted delicious.
Yeah.
Two of the party had ordered a Korean hamburger kind of meal. And I looked at it and I thought, right. And the other member of the friend group had a pie with mash and peas. And I looked at all the meals and wasn't judgmental, but I thought, here you are, you've arrived, you've looked at your meal, thoroughly enjoyed it, and thought, I couldn't eat that.
And I think what you've just explained, and this is very exciting for me as your guide in the mindful eating journey, is that we don't always get it right. But noticing when we pick a meal that really suited what we were looking for, the experience of eating, how much we ate, and how we felt after eating it as well. So that's kind of that post assessment of eating. And I probably should explain to our listeners, because some people understand mindful eating as just that moment of eating, that experience of eating where you notice the colors, aromas, textures, flavors of your food. But of course, in the Eating for You programs, we introduce mindful eating before we start eating, and of course, that checking in afterwards as well. So, Janice, that's really a positive change for you, isn't it? To
That
actually,
was the first big positive thing I'd noticed for a while.
yeah,
I've noticed little things like not having to eat the whole plate full of food. I've noticed I really enjoy an apple. It's much more satisfying than a chocolate bar
mm.
because you feel better.
Aha. Okay, another post-eating assessment.
Mm.
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Yeah. And I've just had some clients share that with me over the past couple of weeks, that chocolate seems to be a thing for many ladies who join my programs. And so many have been saying to me this past fortnight, I actually don't want to eat the chocolate because I don't feel as well after eating it
No.
as I do having some fruit, or even just having a cup of tea if I just need to sit and have some quiet time or just to relax. So that's really positive, because I think for me that sort of sums up a lot of the changes that yourself and other ladies have shared, that I choose to eat what I eat because I feel better, not I choose to eat it because I'm following a diet and that's what I have to eat. That's quite a difference, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. And I do still try desserts,
Yeah.
uh, but I find them very sweet.
Yeah. So do you find that you're eating the whole dessert or having more of a taste?
Having a small portion.
And I find with my husband and I, or if I'm out, excuse me, with my sister and my mum, we might just share a dessert. And so you just want to have a taste of something. It's not like you want to have a whole dessert by yourself. So, Janice, you've shared quite a few different things that have changed for you whilst you've been adopting mindful eating. Is there anything else that you've noticed that has changed? Perhaps how you think about food, or even yourself and the choices that you make?
I think it's liberating, and that would be the word I'd use,
Yeah.
that you're not worrying about a diet or what to eat and what not to eat.
Mm.
Food is to live, but it's enjoyable not having to worry about being restricted to certain foods, and you can enjoy eating.
Yes. Yes. And that in itself I think is really important, because I was doing reading around stress and stress eating. And when we're stressed, and especially if we're talking about chronic stress, whether it's work stress, family stress, stress, grief, anything that is causing us to be upset over the long term, we do tend to reach for more food because our cortisol levels are higher. But what people don't necessarily realize is that when our cortisol levels are higher, then our body is going to store more energy as fat as well.
Mm.
And again, for me, that kind of makes sense from a survival mechanism in our genes as well. But of course, in the long term, that just causes us to increase our weight to a point that is maybe no longer healthy for us. So being more relaxed about food and actually sitting and enjoying food is beneficial, because that's going to be bringing down those stress hormones and giving us more of those feel-good neurotransmitters. And we're going to enjoy it, as you said, and it's actually going to be helping our body indirectly. We may not realize, and indirectly as well, with the changes in those.
Exactly. Mm.
Yeah. So I think it's the more I learn about stress, the more I learn about mindfulness, I start to have these aha moments as well. And I start thinking, well, that's why that makes sense. And this is why it's been hard. Some of my clients perhaps adopt mindful eating because of their stress levels or the fact that they're not sleeping as well. And it's important that we sort of recognize this and work on lowering our stress at the same time.
But also not to be too hard on yourself when you take a step back,
Yes.
as we all do have moments.
Yes.
And as you get through mindful eating, you start to look, well, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Why did I be tempted?
Yeah.
And I've had those moments,
Yes.
still do. I think it's nature.
Yeah. And I think also too, we've got to remember we've had those habits for a very long time.
And they're hard to break.
They are. And especially now we understand more about the stress hormones and the appetite hormones. It's not just an emotional habit, there's an actual biological thing going on here as well, that we're being driven to eat because of the stress hormones and the changes in our appetite hormones. But if we can recognize that stress, as I was sharing in an earlier episode just a couple of weeks ago, that we've got an opportunity to say, okay, let's actually go back to that point and see if I can get some strategies in place to actually reduce the stress as well. And this is what I find for my clients who do adopt mindfulness practices on a daily basis or have another form of mindfulness, whether it's prayer, whether it's Tai Chi, yoga to a certain extent as well, can be a very mindful activity. They start to realize that they're not feeling as stressed. So the stress hormones are calming down. So there is less stress eating because the hormones have settled down. But of course, as you can eat for other reasons. So as I said before, sometimes we just want to eat for pleasure. We want to taste something. We're not really hungry, but that's okay. That's part of being human as well. And just saying, well, I don't really want to end up over full, but I'd really love to have a taste of this. Or if you are full already, you can say to someone, I might just take that home and then I can enjoy it later, which are all good strategies, and they take time to put in place as well. So step backs, as we sort of talked on coaching calls, Janice, I talk about degrees of mindfulness and looking back before completing your mindfulness coaching program, you wouldn't have even reflected in that way, would you, in terms of that?
No, you
night?
don't have the insight until we get help from someone like you. That is a gradual coaching process. And now I can look back and think, well, it's a little bit like decluttering your house, really. It's your body.
I like that analogy.
Well, that's how I see it now.
Yeah.
I'm not dropping dress sizes yet,
No.
but I don't expect I've got to declutter the body. It's clinging there, and it's going to take a lot of time. But now, at the end of my journey, that's how I see it.
Yes, it's decluttering. But I think it was also important. You mentioned that you can take that step back or make decisions sometimes that are less mindful. How do you come back from that experience? You know, what's your attitude or your mindset around those little sort of deviations from mindful eating?
Well, basically, that's the day. Tomorrow's there. Don't be too hard on myself.
Good.
Except that does happen sometimes.
Yes.
And that doesn't give me an excuse to get up tomorrow and do the same thing.
Yeah, and I think that's so similar to what others have shared with me, is that once it was an all or nothing attitude. You either stuck to healthy eating, whatever that is, unless we devise it ourselves. And if you didn't, you failed. Oh, well, I failed, so I may as well eat up everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it takes a week or a month or 6 weeks or 3 months to get back into the groove of healthier eating. And that's what most of my clients have said, is that they acknowledge it, they say that's okay, and then tomorrow they just resume their mindful eating practice and let it go. And I think that's probably one of the most harmful things, I think, coming out of diet culture, is that self-criticism and the blame, the frustration that women and men carry because they've not been able to stick to diets, or the diets that they've followed haven't given them the results. In some cases, especially when we look at keto and paleo, that can actually make their health conditions worse. So I think that's what is really the key to mindful eating as well, is not only to get to know your mind and body, but to be kind and patient with yourself as well is really important.
And probably the other thing that I think connects with it is socialisation. Don't allow yourself to become isolated.
Yes.
Which happens when you grow out of dress sizes and you're not feeling like going out. And like I have a card day once a week. That's a social occasion, as well as using my brain. I do an exercise class with weights and stretches. The physio has me doing exercises, at least takes an hour and a half a day. So I'm enjoying friends' company.
Yes.
To balance out the mindful eating.
Yes. And I remember you saying too about the community, the Eating for You community, and the coaching calls being quite important, from that recognition that you're not alone. You're not the only one going through that.
I think they're essential.
Yeah.
Part of the program. I really enjoyed them, hearing the problems other people had, and it was a support. The same as the podcasts. If you're starting to feel a little bit down and you listen to a podcast, boosts you up.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad that they have that impact, Janice. I do get some feedback from time to time, but anyone who's listening, I'd really love to get your feedback on the podcast and how they are supporting you, or any questions that you would like answered on the podcast. Because from time to time I do hear, or I'll have a call with a lady and they'll say, oh, I really enjoyed this podcast about emotional eating or about mindful nutrition. And I think, oh, it would be great if I had some way of getting the feedback more often. So thanks for sharing that. Is there anything else that you would like to share about your journey with food and how you see yourself moving forward with mindful eating?
Hopefully, I keep progressing as I am.
Yes.
It's given me more of an insight looking back on my life now as to how I was a bigger child to start with. Night shift, I think, was the biggest thing for me. The biggest problem, as I see it now, and a lot of stress in my life. But now I can recognise where it is and what triggers.
Yes.
I think you probably underestimate the impact of the non-judgemental support. You don't realise just how important that is to people like me and everybody else that's in your program. That was a big milestone for me.
No, thanks for sharing that, Janice, because I think many of us don't realize that, sure, we could be getting judgment from other people or what we see, especially for people who are on social media or online quite often. There's comparisons and judgments, and you should this and don't do that, and all of this stuff out there. And what we don't often realize, though, that's there running in the background, but the biggest critic is often ourselves. And I just know from my own experiences in life and food that beating yourself up doesn't help. And so many ladies have said to me, why is it that I look at myself in the mirror and don't like what I see, but the first thing I do is run to the kitchen and empty out the biscuit barrel? Like, it doesn't make sense. It's not going to help me. And I think it's that, well, I know it's not that I think, it's that underlying sort of criticism and judgment and that sense of failure, because at that point you haven't been able to get a healthy relationship with food, not understanding that there's many psychological, biological, sociological, even dietological reasons why you eat the way that you do. So Janice, thanks for sharing that, because I think it's really important for all of us to be wary of that inner critic. And I'm really thankful that what you learned in the Eating for You programs has helped you release that and enjoy your life and food, which is really important as well. So Janice, if you were explaining eating for you or your mindfulness approach more importantly to others, what would you say to them in terms of, we've touched on it a little bit already in terms of the differences with dieting, but what would you say to them? Because I know we'll have people listening that are thinking about doing something with their eating, because we're into spring now, and goodness me, so many diets out there. What would you say to them in terms of if they were weighing up, I want to do something, what do I do for myself that I can actually do and maintain?
I think it's learn to like yourself first, and then look at the food that you really enjoy that makes you feel good.
Yes.
That chocolate bar that you start and I've done it, keep scoffing till it's all gone and then feel really sick. And it's looking at the whole food program and life and where you're at socially. Why are you feeling like you are? You get into that box that you can't get out of.
Yes.
And I rely on friends a lot, just the people you love around you that will support you and not be judgmental. I would highly recommend anybody to try your program for the informative, non-judgmental approach, and it gives you time to realise how your emotions, and as you say, all the other reasons why we have the problems.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's important that even though what I offer is a program, it's very personalized, because what your challenge has been with eating is different to somebody else's. And I think this can be a little bit more difficult to understand unless you've had a call with me or you've done some of my programs or my short trainings, is that what I'm aiming to do is give you the steps to understand why you eat, assess what works for you, what doesn't work for you, so you can become the expert in your own health and eating, just like you do now. You divert from mindful eating, but then just get back on track with mindful eating and on you go. So it's kind of like, this is how I go about it. And it does evolve, as you said, because some of the things that you mentioned about liking yourself and choosing food that nourishes you, that can take a few months to uncover, because we have to get rid of all of that diet knowledge. We have to get rid of that inner critic in our mind and start replacing it with some kinder encouragement as well. So Janice, thanks for sharing what you have with us today. Is there anything else you would like to share before we finish up?
Not really, except that I don't think I could have got to where I am now without someone to guide me.
Yes.
I couldn't have done it by myself. I think you probably need someone to reflect back to you. And as you said, it's an individual thing to talk to you and help you realise where you are and how to go about it.
Yes. And I think what you've mentioned there is the myth that in many ways we think, oh, it's just food. I know what the healthy food is. I should just be able to eat it. But I think from our conversation today and earlier podcast episodes is that food becomes much more complicated than it need to because of the rules around food perhaps that we grew up with, the different dieting rules that we've had, that belief perhaps that we don't have control of over food. So there's lots of things that make it more complicated than it need be. So Janice, thanks again for sharing. I know our listeners will really enjoy your reflections today and your journey to date with mindful eating.
Thank you, Sally Ann, and thank you for your program.
You are most welcome. So if you've been listening today and enjoyed this episode, please let us know and share the link on your social media pages. I look forward to sharing with you again next week. You have been listening to the Eating For You podcast with Sally Ann Pisk. If you are looking for additional support to enjoy a lifelong way of healthier eating, then join me in a free 30-minute call to see if our approach is right for you. I have included the link to book an obligation-free call in this episode's notes.